Welcome. I'm Lynn Jordan, in case anybody doesn't know that. And this is a little bit different class. It's not totally Sudowrite focused because it's focused on writing a romance using AI. That doesn't mean that it's going to do it all for you. You're still in control. The AI is your writing assistant. This will be a 4-session class. And just today, I moved some of the session topics around. But this one, we're going to craft a romantic premise. By the time you get done with this, you will have your premise today, if you follow along, and you'll have your characters. If not, then that is your homework for next week. What I want to do is I want to, after the 4 weeks are over, have you very well versed in starting your own book and have your book laid out. So you'll know exactly how to go about finishing it. And we'll hit all the high points that a romance must have. I know some of us might argue that, but that's neither here nor there. Okay. So what we're going to do is we're going to talk about the AI assist in romance. But it's not replacing you as an author. It's not replacing your own creativity. It will help you. If you're new to either writing or romance writing, it can help you very much. But it makes mistakes that beginners writers make. So you'll see, and I'm sure it will make some for us. So we'll be able to see what it can do and what it can't do. Today, we're going to work on our premise and our characters. Now, you may say, why write romance? Other than it's February and it's Valentine's, and the team wanted a session or several sessions on romance, which, of course, I'm always willing to do. Romance is the best-selling genre. It outsells by far all the rest of the genres put together. So if you're in it for the money, romance is where you want to be. The last thing I looked at that had the chart of the income, the other genres were all in the millions per year. And romance was in the billions. The last thing I saw was 6 billion. That's not current, so don't quote that yet. It's popular because it's emotional, and readers like it for the emotional arcs of the characters and a satisfying ending. A romance must have a happy for now or happy ever after ending. If a book does not have that, it's not a romance. I don't care what they tell you. It can be a love story. It can be something else with romantic elements, but it is not a true romance. There are familiar romance tropes that the readers like and come to expect, and it has several subgenres, quite a few, and we're going to talk about the subgenres. I will put the notes in the chat. I've tried to give you some very special notes that cover a lot of things, and I'll be pinging back and forth between the slideshow, the notes, and Sudowrite, and I think we'll probably ChatGPT, we can use Claude, whatever you want to, other thing you want to use. The techniques you can use with all of the AI models. However, Sudowrite makes it easier for you, especially if you're a beginner and you're not sure about the elements that need to go into your book. The oxymoron thing is that readers want the same but different. They want familiar yet fresh. That's hard to do, but I'll give you some hints and techniques about some ways we can do that. But almost everything's been written before, so don't sweat it if you can't come up with something totally unique, because you don't really need to. Today, we're going to talk about unique romance story ideas. We're going to create compelling characters. We're going to have an emotional conflict because it might be a romance, but it's not a story unless we have conflict. What keeps those characters apart? Why don't they get married on page one? No. The readers there, they know that it's going to be happy ending, but they're there for the story. A good friend of mine says, get your characters in trouble, get them out of trouble. Get them in trouble, get them out of trouble. Get them into so much trouble they can't possibly get out. Get them out of trouble, and that's the end of the book. So conflict is essential. And then we're actually going to work on writing an engaging hook, and that's something that the AI can really help us with. So when we talk about generating romance premises, that's what is our story going to be about? The AI is wonderful at helping brainstorm. That's one of my favorite things to do with it. And while you're brainstorming, you can look at some unique things and have some combinations that you might not have thought of before. The AI will give you some, but sometimes it will just spark that little thing that makes you think, oh, I don't like those ideas, but it gives me another idea. And then we will talk about the ideas with the market trends. We're not going to go into marketing a lot, and we're not going to go into researching what you ought to write. What I want you to do in this class, especially if you haven't written romance before, is pick a story that resonates with you. We'll worry about market later, but for this time, sometimes I need money right now and I want to pick something that's really going to sell. So you do your market research and you write to market. But to get started, to figure out how to do romance using AI, start with something that gets you excited first. If you look at that note page, I have included a workbook for you. It's in Notion. Notion's free. All you have to do is, I'll show you how to copy it into your own, and then you can edit it. I've got spaces where you can put in what you decide to work on. So our first exercise is going to be tropes in subgenres. And for that, what I am going to do is stop the share for a sec. And I will switch to the notes. Now, this should be what your Notion page looks like. This is the first page. Each one of these is a separate page. If you click on it, it will bring it up. To copy the whole thing over into your own, you should, where mine says share, you should have two little, it looks like sheets of paper. And that is the copy. So if you click that, it will put it into your own Notion account. Notion is free. You do not need to have the paid version. You do need to just set up your account, and then you'll be okay. So if we look, we're going to look at tropes. That's what we're talking about. And this is the common thread that runs through some of the stories. Most genre fiction uses tropes. The tropes will depend on the genre, of course, but these are some common ones for romance. We have the enemies to lovers. We have friends to lovers. Fake relationships. That's where you get your fake boyfriend, fake fiance, fake marriage. You get forced proximity. That's where they're stuck someplace. Usually a snowstorm is really popular, but they are in a small area by themselves. And that's great for romance and getting things going. A offshoot of that is the trope called one bed, where they're stuck in a room, mostly a hotel room, but not necessarily, where there's only one bed. You have the marriage of convenience. That's where they're really married, but they have underlying reasons for why they got married. Okay. We have the love triangle, which used to be one of our main characters had to choose between two other characters. However, now we have what's called why choose, and that's why not have both? Grumpy Sunshine is, I think that term is fairly new, but the concept has been there since before I was writing for Harlequin, which was back when the dinosaurs roamed the earth and all the men were aloof and arrogant, and the women were sweet little young things who came to be the governess or whatever. Most of the time, it's the man who's grumpy. You can write a grumpy female character, but know that you're going against tradition, so it might not have the sales that it could have otherwise. You've got opposites attract, and I think there's a lot of opposites attract in every romance or almost every romance. Because if two people are too much alike, then you're not going to have your conflict. It's going to be boring. You can have secret relationships. There's many reasons why they might have to keep their relationship secret. And there's always a second chance romance. That's a couple who've been together in the past and now they get together again. You can use that as what we used to do in the really sexy Harlequins was they wanted love scenes right away. That was one way to get a love scene in pretty quick, is if the couple had a history. And sometimes they might even still be married. You never knew. Then we have the situational tropes, which can be forbidden love, mistaken identity, amnesia romance is always a good one, the revenge romance. Sometimes that can be really fun to write. And once again, that also fits into enemies to lovers. Secret billionaire or royalty. Now, the billionaires are really big now. And some people really like the royalty. And of course, you can combine them because I would hope that your royalty is going to be a billionaire. And you can have the best friend sibling that follows along with the friends to lovers. You can have a couple that have been friends for a long time. And now they fall in love. Single parent is good. I know that I saw the Kindle Trends came out this week, and the single dad is very popular now, but I also saw in one of the subgenres, the single mom's doing pretty well. A workplace romance, and a lot of people like those. They all used to be the boss and the secretary. And I really don't like that because I don't like a romance where one character is much more powerful than the other that has power over the other person. And that can be non-gender specific. That can go either way. If you want to do that, you can, because if you look at some of the bestsellers, there are some of those out there. One night stands to more. We all know, those of us who follow romance know, that if you have a one night stand and that's all it's meant to be, of course there's going to be a pregnancy. That usually leads into really something. And then you could have the ugly duckling where one or the other goes through either, it could be physical, it could be emotional, it could be either one, that all of a sudden catches the eye of the love interest. And that can fit in real well with the friends to lovers, simply because you've got, the little sister he may have not have noticed before or something like that. And then fantasy and paranormal can have its own tropes. Fated mate can be useful because it accelerates the slow burn. You can get them together faster if they're fated. Usually the tradition is that the supernatural being the person, and usually it's a male supernatural with a human female, but it doesn't have to be. You can do supernaturals, or you can twist it around. It's a little bit harder to do and maybe not as popular. So usually the supernatural person knows that there is such a thing as fated mates, and they know that this person is their fated mate. But one of the conflicts is how to tell the other person. Will the other person believe Can they overcome that? So, and then we have the Beauty and the Beast, which is, and that's some of your, like your monster romances that are coming up now. Once again, it's usually the male who is the monster, who is the beast. And now we have, oh, there's orcs are big. Yes, science fiction romance has tropes. You can steal some of these for your science fiction tropes, or you can go into some. We'll talk about science fiction premises a little bit later. And then you have the human and immortal, and that is tricky. I don't care for it too much because unless something unusual happens, the human's going to die and the immortal isn't. But usually in those books, the human becomes immortal, and that makes it better. And then we have the rom-com. I'm here to tell you right now that AI does not do comedy well. But you can add your own. It'll help you. You just can't turn it loose because it doesn't really know what that is. Usually the romantic comedy starts with a meet cute. I will tell you that the AI's version of a meet cute is usually somebody spilling a drink on somebody else. It likes that a lot. You can have the accidental pregnancy that, remember, the one night stand, it can lead to that. You can have a bet or a dare that starts the relationship. You can get the overprotective hero heroine, and that's all of these are not confined to romantic comedy. You can have all these in all the other subgenres too. And then you can have love lessons. And that can also, that's common for best friends to, I'll help you get a date. This is how you can be around women. Um, it doesn't work too well the other way around because usually a woman can get any man she wants. That's not too hard to do. But guys seem to have trouble hooking up with women. So those are some of your common tropes. Now it works best if you can combine. We'll look at some themes. It used to be the editor always wanted to know, what is your theme? And we would all come back and say, love conquers all. This is a romance. We know love conquers all. What else? So we have the second chances, self-discovery, healing past wounds, forbidden love, the power of fate, redemption. That's always a popular one. Opposites attract, family and community and love. Because that's where a lot of you get the small town feel. And that's really good for series because you can have spinoffs of the different people in the town. And you take a town where everybody's single, and by the end of the series, you have them all married off. That works well and gets you lots of books. And you can bring the reader along, they'll fall in love with the series. The sacrifice for love, that's always very emotional. There's benefits to that. The journey to trust, if you think about it, if you're going to give your heart, give your life to someone, you really need to trust them. And that is usually a gradual journey. Love versus duty is good because that sets up an external conflict right away that will keep your couple apart. Unrequited love, that because this is a romance, that eventually turns around. Love where you least expect it. And I know, like in real life, love seems to come when you least expect it. Now here, see, we have the workaholic CEO falls for the quirky assistant. I wouldn't write that, but if you want to write it, go ahead. And then love beyond space or time. That can be like time travel, reincarnation, anything like that. So those are common themes. Oh, and now we'll talk about genres. And this is definitely not all of the genres. I asked AI to give me genres. I added genres, and I know I'm missing a bunch. But we've got the contemporary. That can be small town, billionaire, workplace, friends to lovers, sports, single parent, and Western contemporary. And I know there's a whole bunch more. Uh, I'd probably put mafia could go in there, the mafia romance, the historical romance. Any time period you can think of, you can set a romance there. And I guarantee you there has been romances set there. At the ancient world, the Regency, the Victorian. And there is a difference between Regency and Victorian. And you really need to know it because your readers will know it. The Regency fans are very avid and they know everything about the Regency period. And the Regency period was only 12 years. A lot of things after that, I think it ended in 1812. Am I right about that? Anything after that would be Victorian. You can have medieval. You can have Highland. You can have Viking. You can have Western historical. And the 20s to the 50s, now that we're in the 21st century, all of the 20th century is historical. I would think if I were to redo my books, if I didn't update them, they would all be historical now. And you can't imagine what the invention of the cell phone did to romantic suspense. It sidelined it. And I don't think romantic suspense is in contemporary, but it's one of my favorite genres. Then you've got your paranormals. You've got werewolves, vampires, shifters. You've got the fated mates, which can be any of these. Ghost and spirit. I find those hard to write because how are you going to get them together? Unless you kill the human off or whatever. You can do that. You got the fae, the witches, the magic, angels and demons. Any of that can be paranormal. Your monsters romance falls under that. And then you have your fantasy romance. You've got high fantasy. You've got the fairy tales. You've got mythology. Magical kingdoms, quests, whatever. That can be fantasy romance. And here's some of your time travel, some of your science fiction, which is time travel, aliens, cyberpunk, after the end of the world. I'm from Texas. I can't say that. Oh, and here, romantic suspense is a category of its own, where you can have a government agency, a military, private security agencies, bodyguards, mafia. All of that can be romantic suspense. Then you get into your dark romances, where that's where a lot of your mafia fits in. The kidnapped captive, the anti-hero. Your revenge romance can be a dark romance. It probably would be. And then you have your erotic. Now, erotic, people say Amazon puts erotic books in the dungeon. That doesn't mean they don't sell. That just means they can't be found with a search. But the people who read these books, the people who are fans of these books, know very well how to find them. So you can have the BDSM, and that can be anything from like just a touch of it to all the way. You can have your taboo romance. Nicole does some classes on taboo romance and the dark romance. And you can have your reverse harem. A reverse harem is one woman with at least 3 guys. Or you can have the polyamory where you have multiple people in a relationship all with each other. Then you get into the LGBTQ, which you can have male, you can have female, you can have any combination. You can have non-binary, you can have trans. Now anything goes. Everything is a subgenre. If you want to write that, write it. The young adult romance is that's when the kids are still in high school or younger. So it's calling for first love, a summer. You can put that in a paranormal fantasy. And then the new adult is just when they're older than that. They're out of high school. So a lot of it's like college. sports, some of that getting out away from the parents, trying out new personalities. So you might have a girl who's been fairly prudish trying to act out in college, something like that. And then you have the Christian inspirational romances. Now, inspirational sounds like it's all religions, but in truth, it's Christian. If you come up with something that's not Christian, it probably won't do as well. Now, the Amish has taken off. Amish is a very popular inspirational romance. All the Christian inspirational romances are clean. There is no sex. It's like the Hallmark movie when they've kissed, it's over. That's what the inspirational's about. Harlequin has a line for inspirational romantic suspense, and you can certainly do that. You don't have to do it for Harlequin. Trust me, you don't. Holiday themed romances are big. Pick a holiday, you can write a romance around it. And if you look now, you'll probably see lots of Valentine's Day romances because it's coming up and romance and Valentine's Days goes together, right? Then you can have romantic comedy. Usually it's like the awkward meet cute. It's filled with funny situations, but you don't want to give up the emotion because your reader's there for the emotion. So even though it's funny, the emotion has to be there. It has to be read. Office enemies to lovers you can make that sort of cute. You can put them in situations where they are awkward, basically. Then you've got your reverse harem. That can be as a paranormal, it can be as a fantasy, it can be a contemporary, whatever you want to do with it. Then you got your military romance, and Navy SEALs are very popular. Now, some of the historicals, the World War II stories, any of the SEALs are good, but any of the Special Forces guys work, whatever. Usually they are retired. Sometimes they've been injured, and that can lead into your plot. Then you have your sports romances. And right now, hockey is very popular. And you'll have during the Olympic years, the Olympic romances will be popular. And I'll tell you a little secret that I think the racing romances are going to get popular again. The medical romance, that was probably the very first romance. Early on, you had the doctors and the nurses. It's not as popular as it was, but it's coming back. And if you notice now, there's several new TV shows around doctors and hospitals. So expect that to come. Then you've got your gothics. You've got the brooding hero, and that's what all the heroes used to be in the past. The big isolated mansion that may or may not be haunted. Used to be the covers was a woman in her nightgown running away from the house. That sort of fits in with the Too Stupid to Live heroine, but that was the trope back then. And then you've got the steampunk. Steampunk is very interesting because it's right at the cusp of the Industrial Revolution where everything is powered by steam. And you've got everything with the gears. And we have quite a culture. Most of it's balloons and dirigibles and that kind of thing. Play with that. And you take them and mix them up. You're not stuck to just one. So that gives you some ideas for what you might want to write. By the same token, you want to decide on your heat level. Some of the genres have decided for you. If you're going to do erotica, that's going to be hot. If you're going to do inspirational, that's not going to be hot. But most of them have a range. And you can go from clean and wholesome to spicy, sexy, and on up as hot as you want to get. So for this, I'll add the other class notes to this. But you have a workbook. Here is your workbook. It does have all the prompts that you could want in it, I think. The prompts that we're going to use. So the very first thing I want you to do is I want you to pick your subgenre. As we've been going through this, have you been thinking about what subgenre you want to write? Formula One racing? Yep. That's going to be hot, I think. I'm still a NASCAR fan, but those drivers are older and the other guys are hotter. I want you to take a couple of tropes. You can change your mind, but I am going to copy our trope here and we will go into our friend Sudowrite. You tell I've been playing with this. So I will start a new one. Yeah, I will change the project to like Romance Class 1. And there are several ways to do the brainstorming with Sudowrite. You can do the brainstorm, and if we say something else, you can, if I stick the thing in there, it's going to give me the number it wants. It's not going to let me say 5, but I'll just say unique story ideas that combine in what tropes. You guys want to suggest a couple of tropes? Okay, second chance. And proximity.
One bed, historical, red baby, white shoes.
And a. Okay, what's our subgenre? Sports. I'm going to say contemporary. It would probably know contemporary, but it never hurts to be very specific with the AIs. Let's see what we got. Okay, former professional athlete, long lost love. They're coaches of rival teams. That has possibilities. Former high school sweethearts work together as coaches for rival soccer team. Okay. I noticed last night I was getting the same premise worded differently over and over. Okay, this is a college sports team. Let's grab this one. And this one is so much like it, I'm going to thumbs down it. We got the athlete and the coach. Okay, they have to share a small cabin. That might be okay, but I don't want the coach. I don't want the coach to be her coach. I wouldn't think that opposite sexes would be at a training camp together with a small cabin. That's okay. Football player runs into the high school sweetheart, who's the town mayor and his boss. I like that. Okay. Yeah, I know. I just did I didn't want one to have power over the other, but I think that could work because it's not your usual male over the female. Okay. 2 soccer players. Yeah, I'll keep that up. And I'll save that and exit it over here. And you can do that with any genre, any tropes. And another thing that you can do is if you come down here and do the Control K, you can get into Quick Chat. And if you're in Quick Chat, the higher quality uses Muse. Yeah. And that will cost you credits. The lower quality uses one of the Chat GPTs, and that is free. But you can definitely put the same prompt in. And this time you can tell it 5. Female flag football. Good. Gaining popularity. So, okay, so if we come up, I am going to look at the combine. Let's see. Secret baby and male. Now let's just say contemporary. Contemporary setting. See what it does with that. Okay, we've got the CEO's hidden heir. One night stand with a powerful tech CEO known for his ruthless business tech and unapproachable demeanor. Firefighter surprise. We got the single mother here. Oh, the local bad boy turned firefighter. Yeah, I know a few of those. Rogue biker's redemption. Football star's legacy. And the Navy SEAL's return. Now, don't forget that you need to copy these, because if you don't copy them, when you click into something else, they will be gone. I put that in there. Whoops. We will, whoops, it didn't. Put them up there. Yeah. So there, we had saved those. And if we don't want to write them all now, we might stick some aside, write it later. That is something we can certainly do. You can take this and you can put it in ChatGPT. You can put it in Fog Chat. You can put it in Playground. However, whatever tool you like to use, you can certainly put this in. Do we have a favorite one of these? If you want to see me do one.
I like the second one, the firefighter surprise.
What happened?
The
What'd you say?
second one, the rogue biker.
You want the Rogue Biker's Redemption?
We have two person asking the number 2 or the number 3.
Okay. Did you
Yes,
say
that's
2
a
want
pretty
2 and 1 wants 3?
Exactly. 1 wants 2, 1 wants 3. Nobody else is saying anything.
Okay. I'm going to go with a firefighter because just because.
6-year firefighter. Okay.
But you all are welcome to any of these, but do one that sparks something for you. Now, to use this with Sudowrite, the best thing to do is to feed this into BrainDump. And see what it does. And this is going to be just contemporary romance. We could we can make it small town. We could make it, in fact, is it hometown? Okay, let's call it small town. Cursor's in the way. We won't worry about a style for now because we're not doing that. But we can let it create a synopsis for it because Sudowrite is good at that. Oh, everybody take a drink. We have Lily Thompson. That's 2 of our favorite names. I highly recommend that you change any name it gives you because it has its favorite names and it will use them and use them. Oh, and Maplewood. Maplewood is the new Willow Creek. We have Jack Mitchell. That's another really common. It used to be that it always paired Jack and Sarah. Now it's pairing Jack and Lily. Okay, their love grows stronger and they watch. I guess Noah's the kid. And Noah is another really common name. that it likes. But what you want to do is you want to go in here. Oh, yeah, Chin is a new popular name. I've seen different first names with it, but Chin is the up and coming name. Blackwood is the villain. Um, it fantasy gives you certain names. And I'm adding some of these new ones. I've got a document that's AI clichés, and some of these names are in it, but I'm trying to update it with some of these new ones. And Chin definitely should be in it. Oh, absolutely. Copy the premise. And it's in your notes. For this one, I said secret baby and alpha male with contemporary setting. But that's the one I used for both samples. You want to look at this and, first of all, make sure that there is enough conflict, enough emotional stakes to sustain an entire book. Now, this could be a novella, it could be a novel, it could be any length you want it to. But we've got the past history between the two. We've got the child, the secret baby. So those are both emotional hooks. And we don't know what broke them up unless they figured that out in the synopsis, but we can do our own. Because you don't have to take this just exactly the way it is. You can massage it to the story that you want. I think that this has plenty of meat to be a book. They got memories of intense and passionate summers. I still don't know what the heat level of this should be. Usually I let the books tell me that, or the editor. If the editor's paying, they can tell me that. But it's been a lot of years since I have written trad. So. Okay, so we can say that is a decent synopsis. Now we come to our characters, and if I back to here, I think it's here, it may not be. It's in the point. I'm behind where I was before, unfortunately. So next we want to create compelling characters, because most of the romance stories are character driven. That's a very good trope. It's the charity auction where they auction off the dates. And that works for almost any occupation you want. And that can make a good rom-com. Like, it can make good other things too. That's a very good trope. You don't want perfect characters. Your reader won't identify with perfect characters. They won't care about perfect characters. So you want to make sure that you have balanced characters. You don't have the cardboard. You have their strengths and their weaknesses. You want to make sure there's a reason that the characters sync together. Because we want a female reader to want to be the heroine and fall in love with the hero. And male readers, probably the other way around. Let's be honest, most romance readers are female. And you want to make sure they have internal and external conflicts. If it's just an external conflict, they solve that and they get together, and you can have that in chapter 2. And that's not a book. So we want to do a deep dive on our characters. And every writer that I know of has their own method for defining characters. Some people like to use Myers-Briggs, Enneagram, Story Diamond. There's just innumerable ways. And the AI does know most of those. I haven't found a characterization method that the AI doesn't know about. The major things are their name, which, like I said, you want to change, their age and their occupation, personality, internal struggles, and make sure they have romantic tension. Because if they don't have romantic tension, we don't care. Do you remember there's been a lot of TV shows where the whole show is based on the romantic tension between the two characters? I'm trying to think of a real recent one. The most recent one I can think of is Castle. Once the characters get together, the show peters out because the story that kept the viewers engaged, it isn't there anymore. Yeah, Moonlighting. I was thinking Moonlighting, but I was afraid nobody else would remember that. That was a really good one that didn't. Yeah. Bones, exactly. Who's the boss? Yes. Uh-huh. When you resolve that romantic tension, your story is over. Actually, it's Ross and Rachel. Monica was with what's his face? Chandler. Chandler. Here is a prompt that will get you some characters. And that, once again, that is in, whoops, I want to go back. That is in your notebook. You can put that into one of the chats. If you use that in the Sudowrite quick chat, it's going to cut it off short. I don't know what the limit is on quick chat, but it's not working too well. If you're in Sudowrite, what you want to do, let me flip back to Sudowrite. And here's your prompt. I can copy it from here and put it in the chat. But like I said, it's in your workbook. But since Sudowrite knows about our synopsis, it knows about our premise, we can come down here to characters. And what they have done is they have given us a lot of the common characterizations. If we go in here, you can add your own, and I'll show you I have added my own characteristics to some of these, to the characters. I'll get it. And I just asked it to generate the whole cast. I could do one at a time if I wanted to. And I know we're over the hour, so I will hurry through this. And we'll save the hook for next time. It doesn't take long. I feel like I ought to be singing the Jeopardy theme here. And we'll see what it does. If I was doing this for a real project, I would have changed the names in the synopsis so they didn't get populated down here. I would have given it the names. But we'll work with Lily and Jack for now. Come on, a little bit more.
Yes, you're going to have the Bible of character there.
Yeah, how many characters does it need? Okay, yeah, if you're doing a paranormal fantasy, you can say that your character's age looks 35. If I have a story that does that, it shouldn't be that big a cast. We're in a small town, remember?
There's a question for you, Miss Lynn.
Yeah, about the ancient character that looks 35.
If you are, yeah, that one.
Yeah, I would just put that in the physical description that way. Also, your characters will probably change. They should grow during your story. So you want to update your characters to where they are, where their character art is in the whole as they progress through the book. So your characters can be very fluid. Huh.
You said, was
I
that?
wonder if the AI is having trouble. Maybe I should have just done the first two. That's why when you watch these replays, watch them on a higher speed. Because especially when the subject's the software, you're waiting on the software. Okay, shall we? If you're doing a book and the main viewpoint is not one or both of the main characters, it's not really a romance. You want the reader to get into the character's head. You want them in that relationship. Now, there's plenty of room to explore the psychological aspects, but you do want the viewpoint character to be one of the main characters, the love interest in the romance. Yeah, that way it wouldn't be, I would say it'd be more literary than even women's fiction. Because women's fiction, you still want the reader to identify with the main characters. Do you agree with that, Harper, or not?
Yeah, I would agree with that. I don't do a lot of women's fiction and I definitely don't do literary, but yeah, the description that Shelby put, I would probably, if it's not women's fiction, it would definitely be in the literary. And there is a market for that, not one that makes a lot of money, but there is a market for it.
Definitely. Okay, I think did it die?
Didn't go through your general. The AI didn't do it, your character.
Okay, let's
I
do
wanted
it
to
this
try.
way. Yep.
But I just did mine and it works perfectly fine and fairly quickly. So something is
Huh.
missing somewhere.
That's weird. That is weird. Let's see. This one. Okay, let's generate a character. See what it does. Who we got? We got Jack Mitchell. Because all I want to do is show you the traits and how you can add what you can change. You can change all of them. Okay, so here we have Jack Mitchell is 35. It's a he, him. Any other names that he goes by? Okay, here we have the tall and athletic. Slight touch of gray at the temples. Anybody over 30 is gray for the AI. I don't know why. We got the warm brown eyes, which if we leave this in every time it mentions him, he'll have warm brown eyes. So I may or may not let the first description of his warm brown eyes go, but I would definitely take it out after that. Okay, scars from his work, good character. He moves with confidence and purposeful strides. Okay, he's a natural leader, physically capable, loyal, protective, can be stubborn, act impulsively when emotionally invested. Okay, that gives us some good story material. Vulnerability he struggles with, and too much responsibility. Okay. He's always trying to prove himself. Wants to create a legacy. I don't know about that, but he's driven to protect others. And we said we wanted the alpha male. And here's the Myers and Briggs, which is ISFJ, which is the protector. And his personality is he's responsible, protective, tough exterior, gentle heart. Yeah, we know. We always think that. Dry sense of humor, quite confidence. He speaks with authority, warmth, deep and steady voice. His voice is calming in a crisis situation. That would be expected in a firefighter. Direct communication. Humor deflects emotional topics. And if you had an idea for what his dialogue sounded like, you could stick it in here and the software would pick it up. Okay, he grew up in Maplewood. He was a rebellious youth. His life transformed through dedication to firefighting, past experiences. He chose to stay there. Character diamond is one of mine, and that is a primary trait with 2 supporting traits and then a surprising trait. I put in role in the story because with the secondary characters and the minor characters, it throws in characters and I don't know why they're there. So I ask it to tell me right off the top what they're there for. So he's a local figure, but we know that. His occupation is a fire captain. So anything from here down I added because that fits in with the way I work. He's from a small town, and you can add your own traits here. You can put them in as a global trait. So every character you generate will have that, or you can have it just for this one character. So that is how you make your characters compelling. You want to give them strengths and weaknesses, things the readers can identify with. Does that make sense?